Hello, welcome to our Facebook Live podcast. This series we're looking at Thrive, and to start with, we're going to be looking at time. To get us thinking about time and what we do with our time, we'd like to share with you a little exercise we call What's on Your Plate. So it's quite a straightforward exercise, and we'll talk you through it. And in true Blue Peter fashion, here's one I prepared earlier. So if you can hopefully see my screen. And this is from my days when I was a student, and I'll talk you through it afterwards. But just to describe the exercise, what we do is just have a paper plate that we draw on, or you can just use, as I have, a piece of white paper. And just to draw on and represent what we do with our average day, what we spend our time on. So, for example, on this one, you can see I spend about 8 or 9 hours sleeping. So what we try and do, what you try and draw with your plate is be honest, because you don't have to share this with anyone, and it's a really good way to think about what we actually do. Try and be quite objective with it and be quite honest. And what we do, you might be surprised about what you actually do spend your time on when you really start thinking about your typical day. So we've all had a go at it, so we'd like to share with you our plates. And I think, Lorna, you've got one ready as well.
In my absolute, you're quite right, Blue Peter fashion. So this was taken from my time when I had a pub. And as you can see, quite a lot was on my plate and most of it was work. So bear with me. So most of my day was in the work category and I slept a bit. I had some time to eat and prepare food and the odd hour in a week where I would watch TV. So not having worked for mine then, I didn't realize that it was a thing. But after 3 years of working those hours, decided that it was not good for me. So started a schedule in time that I could do something else. And for me, it was I joined the golf club and started to play golf. And actually it was just maybe 4 hours a week. But those 4 hours were really important. It was time away from all that stress of work. Quite often during that 4 hours, I was thinking about work, even though I didn't think I was. And I would come off the course actually having solved a problem or thought about something which I didn't know that I was even worrying about. Um, the problem with that is when you're that busy and then you have to rely on other people to allow you to have that time. And the guilt can be a bit of a thing. But that's when you need to have an honest conversation with yourself and the other people around you to find out which way you're going to work best, because you can't work to the best of your ability if you're really tired or really stressed. It's no good for you mentally, it's no good for you physically. So I had a really hard look at my life and thought, I can't carry on with this indefinitely. And we had it 10 years, so it wouldn't have been possible. But it was really good and helped at that time in my life. So that's about it, really. What about you, Lizzie?
Okay, so here is mine. I hope you can see that. Okay, so this is my average day at the moment. You can see here that I've got about a third of it, so about 8 or maybe even 9 hours of sleep each night. I've got my work down here for about 8 hours a day. And then here we've got the rest of the day, which is split into exercising. So I really enjoy running and I try and make that a part of most days. I have a lovely dog called Molly, so she takes up a part of my day walking her. Here we've got anything food related, so cooking and eating. Here we've got chores, so that's a shopping basket for doing my food shop. Oh no, sorry, what is this? We've got chores and we've got shopping and housework. Here is me staying in touch with my friends. I also do an online course, so I try and make a little bit of time for doing that. And then here I have kind of downtime, so reading, watching Netflix, looking at my phone. So this is kind of an average day for me. I think for me at the moment, what I'm doing well is I'm getting enough sleep, which is really important to me. I know that if I don't get my kind of 8 or 9 hours, that does have an effect on my mental health. Exercise being a part of my days is really important to me. And I think because I'm working from home at the moment, getting out each morning, walking the dog, making sure I leave the house, that's also really beneficial for my mental health. thinking about what I could do differently, I think this section here is in a way great. I think making time for that kind of downtime, relaxing, but actually I think possibly for me at the moment, I am spending a little bit too much time looking at screens. I think I'm doing that a lot in the day at work and then also in the evening. So that's something that I maybe want to have a little think about. And also just giving myself enough time for these things. I feel like I've maybe jam-packed my free time. So just keeping an eye on, yeah, how I do schedule my time outside of work. Okay, Mary, what about you?
Also, my one is for my student days. Get it so as you can see it. So, like you, Lizzie, I do quite a bit of sleeping in there for my student days. As you can see, I'm on the bed there sleeping. And so I've also got here, I used to walk into uni and back. So I've got about an hour, it would have been, walking there and back, which was the only exercise I had. And thank goodness for that, really, because the rest of my life wasn't too healthy at that time. I would have done probably about 3 hours or so of uni work on an average day. There'd be a couple of hours here for talking on the phone to family or friends or talking to flatmates. Um, and there was a rather large amount of time, as you can see up here, on doing studenty things. So not every day drinking, but there was a fair amount of drinking going on, smoking cigarettes, watching films and talking about films, and lots of talking and hanging out with different people. Which was kind of, you can get away with more, I suppose, in your early 20s. But when I think about my diet was shocking. That's the red line there. Pretty much lived on instant super noodles with the odd takeaway curry. It's not healthy at all. You can get I think the trouble is now, as I get older, I've realised that if I eat rubbish for a few days, I really start to feel rubbish. And I hear a lot of people talk that, how that is, their bodies change as you get older. Um, and for me, I think sort of looking back at this, I didn't really have a clue about self-care back in those days. I think, thank goodness I had the walking. That probably kept me quite healthy in comparison and quite mentally well. But I think if I didn't have that, and it was only because I had to do it, that I would have felt very different, and perhaps my well-being would have been a lot worse off. But I didn't really understand self-care, and it was as is often the case in our age group, you're thinking far more about sort of this area of what you're spending your time on. Yeah, so yeah, routine wasn't really there.
Yeah, and speaking about routine, if we realize, and I think we all do, that routine is so important for children and anybody else in our household, but we're not really good at making our own routines. Maybe we think as you get older, you think about, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do the shopping, and you're more in mind of chores. But actually, you need to factor into your routine good habits. So time for you, time for family time if necessary, time for friends, and those routines we need to embed in ourselves as well. And a really good habit can take about 4 to 6 weeks to embed. And we can pick up a bad habit really quickly, but a good habit takes a little bit of work. So that's something that I think we need to think about when we're not taking care of ourselves, is to put in those good habits. So if you don't sleep well, set that bedtime routine, and it might take 4 to 6 weeks to affect you and to have a good effect on your health and to make it easy. So I think Lizzie was going to talk more about boundaries and routine.
Yeah, so I was just going to add that I think having personal boundaries is really important in when you are structuring your own time. I think it can be quite easy, depending on what your responsibilities are, to give away a lot of time to others, whether that's kind of obviously work and looking after children, and actually if we're trying to look after our mental health, factoring in a little bit of self-care can go a really long way. And kind of carving out that bit of time that's for you, and making sure that that does become part of your average day. One little tip that I'd heard is about making an appointment with yourself. So if we make appointments, meetings at work or appointments with the dentist or anything, we tend to stick to that, but often our time for ourselves can get pushed aside. So actually, if you make an appointment with yourself, for example, on a Friday at 6 o'clock, I will go and do whatever that is you want to do, and just try and stick to that. And like Lorna said, over time that will just become a little bit easier to stick to that routine.
That's a good idea, Lizzie. Yeah, definitely. Um, what I also wanted sort of to add to this one is that when you're doing, if you do your plate, which we'd like to sort of challenge you to do this week, if you're up for it, give it a go. Be honest if you can. You don't have to share it with anyone. But if you want to, we'd love to see them. Send us a picture if you like. But don't be too hard on yourself. No one's plate is perfect. You are always going to see things on there that perhaps you want to change. And it's not about changing it all. It's not about making big, huge changes with your life. It's just little things that we can tweak. And maybe it's adding in a bit of self-care. Maybe it's doing a little bit less work, just to make things better. So go easy on yourself and think of little things to change. It's small steps is the way forward. Yeah, and do give it a go. I think it's a really good exercise, just to think about what we're doing with our time. It has some really good benefits. But if this does bring up for you anything that's uncomfortable that you want to talk through with us at any depth, or in depth, we're here for you. So do give us a call, drop us a line, email, text, and do talk it through. We're here. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time, where we're going to have a look at another exercise, looking a bit more in depth at time. So thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.